Can't hear.
Is that better? Yeah, good. Okay, good. So let's start that again. We'll begin. So vase breathing, again, is, let me describe it first before we go into it. What we're going to do is inhale through the nostrils, draw the prana down to the belly, intentionally hold it in the belly, and then we're going to exhale a portion of the prana. But the prana with every inhale will start to accumulate as we're holding the breath in that area below the navel at the navel. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin with that. I'll give much more instruction as we do. It's an excellent technique to balance all the different vayus. It brings vata back into its seat. It draws from circulation from tissues. A lot of what we'll be speaking about today. So closing the eyes and sitting in a comfortable position, upright spine. And we'll begin with inhaling through the nostrils, drawing the prana down to the area below the navel, kind of deep within the belly. Holding just for 2 seconds now. Imagine that some of the prana settles there, and then we exhale out a portion of it through our nostrils. And again, inhaling the prana, holding for 1 or 2 seconds, allowing the prana to settle, gather there, and then exhaling. So continue with that. The inhales and exhales can be whatever is comfortable as far as length of time. And every 2 breaths, see if you can add another second of holding in that area below the navel. At the top of your inhale, hold the breath for about 2 seconds, then 3 seconds. Every 2 breaths, you add another second until you reach a comfortable maximum. And also visualize the prana remaining there. So hence the name of this practice, vase breathing. So the top of the vase is through the nostrils, and it centers down to the chest. And the bottom of the vase is that area below the navel. And that is where prana is accumulating. Now the prana is being drawn in through the outside environment, and then it is settling into the belly. That is the root of all our nadis. It is also being invited from our tissues and circulation to draw itself there in case it is going in a direction that maybe it is not supposed to, right? Or that due to vitiation of vata dosha. This is a very healing breath. Again, inhaling through the nostrils, drawing the inhale and the prana down to below the belly, letting it settle there. So you're probably at 3 or 4 second hold there of the breath after the inhale. Imagine the prana stays there, and then you exhale a little bit of it, but the majority of it stays there, and it keeps filling up, just like a vase filling with water. So I'll let you go ahead and practice this for a few more minutes. Reach a comfortable space of hold after the inhale. Okay, maybe 4 seconds for some of you, maybe 8 seconds for some of you. Every 2 breaths, you're adding a second until you hit that. Then for about 4 breaths, you'll stay with that comfortable space, visualizing that prana staying there. And all the different subdoshas of vata being drawn towards that center to come back to their site in the large intestine, in the lower abdomen, the main site. Continuing drawing the inhale and the prana with every breath down to the belly, holding it there, envisioning getting greater and greater, this sphere of prana, like a vase filling with water in your lower abdomen. You're exhaling out a little bit of it, but most of it is being kept there. I'll just bring awareness to the point that a good deal of the prana stays down below the belly. It doesn't mean that the exhale is any shorter, however, so don't correspond that. It's more of an energetic and a visualization. It tags along with your actual oxygen and breath and pressure that you're feeling in your body. So we should be reading or reaching our comfortable holds after inhales, plateauing there for a moment, maybe a couple breaths more. After the next breath or so, we're going to reverse the amount of hold after the inhale just by 1 second per breath. So for example, if you're holding for 8 seconds after the inhale and visualizing prana stay there, hold the next breath for 7, then for 6, until you come to no hold after the inhale. And then I'll invite you to open your eyes and to know that everyone's finished. Slowly after the next breath or two, as we're finishing, I'll invite you to turn on your video screen so I can see your faces if they're not on as you come out of this. Okay, welcome everybody back in. I hope you've enjoyed that breathing exercise. It's a very useful tool, a kind of specific way of drawing the pranas back home, vase breathing. Great. So I'd like to begin today, as usual, with the previous module. I like to do some Q&A. Okay, 1 second. Let me just see what's going on here. Okay, good. Hi, Brittany. There you are. Okay, so I'd like to start off with a little bit of question and answers. First of all, does anyone have any kind of questions, answers for me from the previous class or anything you'd like to mention?
Yes.
Yes, great. Go for it.
So I was doing the homework for the previous lesson, and we made a list to put everything in the what was it? Physical, mental, spiritual, and doshic.
Yeah.
And I thought there was a lot of overlap as well for some of them. Is that?
Hallelujah. Yes, you're absolutely correct. And that was the intention of the exercise. I wanted you to reflect upon and just see, does it fall more to one field within that overlap, or really
Yeah.
doesn't? And you could put, 1 and 2 columns, no problem. But by taking the time to do that, I hope that it was allowing you to really kind of think about this, because honestly, these the first chapter and the third chapter have a tremendous amount of overlap. And what's happening here is a lot of this information is being drawn from many of the different classical texts, Shruta, Charaka, Ashtanga Hridayam, Sangraha, and so on. So the material is being presented kind of as, here is a broad view of how Ayurveda looks at Vyadi and Hetu, disease classification as well as causation. So it's really kind of handing it to us. Well, first of all, as opposed to us just saying, this is our style, we're only going to choose these as the causative factors, or this type of disease classification. It gives us all an opportunity to see the gems of wisdom. Why did all these great teachers decide on this or that, or come up with this and this? Okay, so it kind of gives us a lot of freedom, and it can be overwhelming. So it requires a little bit of thought and time for us to kind of bring it together. And I hope that some of these really rang for you, like, wow, okay, that I get. This one, I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever use this. Or, I could do it in a better way or a different way. Okay? That's exactly how I wanted all your brains to be functioning with that.
So how does it work when you would start to diagnose someone? Because also, I think there are a lot of things that are very linked together. So, for example, what was it? Abhigata, the trauma is also linked to your karma, right? Because probably something happens
Sure.
to you
Yeah.
because of past
Yes.
karma. So how would you describe these kind of things when you're diagnosing someone?
Well, for instance, in that case, let's say we have to determine, like, is there trauma that's very clear and obvious? And are we just dealing with that? That is the causal factor. Now, the thing is, what if someone keeps getting repeated traumas? Or it's something very peculiar? We may need to look karmically, consult a Vedic astrologer, and then get to chart read and see, oh my golly, they have this huge karma with knives stabbing them or something, or getting hit, or getting in accidents, right? Which can then be negated through gems and different pujas and things like that through Vedic astrology. But sometimes it's just like, okay, I had an accident, small accident occur, and then we're just dealing with that. Okay, so it gives us a potential of options. It doesn't tell us this is how it should be and you need to choose one. It opens the door of how we should deal with a case. Yeah. Right. So yeah, I wish there's no clear answers here, and that's the truth in all case. That's the art of medicine, is what you need to develop is just an openness of mind to the possibilities, and that gives you avenues to work through that maybe you can find some deep solution and ultimate cure root of this problem. Right? With Ayurveda, we allow for the mental, emotional, spiritual, karmic, all these positive causative factors, right, that are all called idiopathic by Western medicine, meaning we don't know, right? Yeah. Okay, good. Let me ask you also a question. So first of all, my first question was actually about that classification of that. And also, how about the question about classifying your symptoms into Purva, Rupa, and Rupa? How did that do with your minds? I'm going to wait till someone speaks about it. Someone must have done that assignment already. Yeah,
Yeah,
Carla?
Internal.
Go ahead, Carla. Oh,
That was for internal or external, right?
no.
Or
Purva Rupa and Rupa, the different classifications of symptomology. Like, Mike, what I was asking in that
the
question.
cardinal,
Yeah,
the first
exactly.
signs of the.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
exactly. Uh-huh.
yeah.
So that assignment, did anybody have any trouble, or was it pretty clear, or what did you find? Did you find you have more Purva Rupa, more kind of prodromal, more cardinal, or both?
For me, that one was pretty clear. I think
Okay.
I have more Rupa, so I
Mhm.
think that's good.
Okay.
There was one Purva Rupa that came from the Rupas that were going on.
Okay.
So,
I think we have a mixed up. So Rupas come from
yes,
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
yeah.
Good.
So
Good.
so for Purva Rupa, for example, I had just feeling that something's slightly off, just being a little bit more tired than normally,
Uh-huh.
having like tense muscles.
Mm-hmm.
And as Rupa, I have sometimes restless legs.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so that can still be Purva Rupa unless it's
Okay.
like clinically diagnosed as like,
No, it's
oh,
not.
restless leg syndrome, right?
No,
Yeah. So
no.
that's still Purva Rupa,
Okay.
but your thinking is excellent because you showed a kind of progress of symptomology. And today we're going to learn a lot more detail about that. I wanted you to start thinking about that. How about somebody else? I want to hear from another person too about that assignment.
I find that I don't necessarily identify it as Purvarupa until it's Rupa, and then I can look back at it and
Yeah.
say, wow, yeah, I was experiencing this. So for me, I'm traveling right now,
Uh-huh.
and schedule's really busy, and I'm out of my routine completely. And so I've noticed that I was extremely tired. So I knew that was happening. That would be a Purvarupa, just extreme tiredness.
Okay.
Started to get lower back pain and tense muscles like Anne.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's been 2 days that I've been really constipated. And so the
Uh-huh.
constipation being
Uh-huh.
the Rupa, but those
Uh-huh.
little
Uh-huh.
signs that were leading
Uh-huh.
up to it that were
Uh-huh.
trying to tell me this is going to happen if you
Yeah,
don't take
yeah, yeah,
care of
yeah,
it.
yeah. Okay, good. A really nice process. Thank you again. This is really important, and things will be a little more clarified. Like for instance, constipation isn't. It may be a Rupa if you have like a serious issue that's causing obstruction. So it's still Purva Rupa, but it's more advanced. You're doing the right thing. You're following that progression of symptom advancement. Okay, so awesome, great. Good, 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 good. I'm very happy with that. I'm going to be asking you questions about your homeworks, as well as open for general questions at the beginning of classes. Okay, that way we can really integrate that. One other question I want to care. I gave you a self-care assignment of looking at your five senses in misuse, overuse, and underuse. And I'm curious if some of you found some insight from that in this last week of like, oh, this is an area that I'm doing one of those things, and what did you do to correct it as in self-care?
I made it worse, actually.
Hey, it's an experiment.
Yeah, because I started a new Instagram account for my my yoga retreats, and I thought it's good to post something every day, which it is to find students. But I've been noticing that it brings me out of balance so much because I keep checking on my phone, like, oh, do I have some new likes? Do I have some new?
Yeah.
And it's really so. I need to manage that a little bit better.
So let's classify that. What senses are involved in that, and are you overusing or misusing or underusing? This is an important one for our modern age.
Sight.
Yeah, our eyes, right?
Yeah.
Some of you may have like also vocal listening to that too, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And obviously the mind too as a
Yeah.
sixth sense. Yeah. So are we underusing?
Over.
Yeah. Yeah. So overuse of that. So what do you think, what dosha you think is going to be aggravated by that? And what guna has
Vata.
happened?
Vata
Vata and
and
what?
Pitta too, I think.
Yes. Yes. Pitta can be there
Because
too.
it's like a
Absolutely.
competitive thing too.
Eyes too.
And
That
eyes.
fire element. Yes. And so Vata pushing Pitta, right? And then also what gunas?
Dryness.
It could be dryness. And dryness, I would say, would be a more of a mental, emotional feel about that. This is getting like, You know, that kind of
Moving
feeling. Yeah, mobile for the Vata
or
for sure.
Mobile.
This, or tweet or this or Instagram, right? But also there could be some
swipe.
Pitta ones.
Sharp or hot?
Yeah, absolutely, right? Sharp. Oh, I have to keep piercing into this, right? Looking into this, like I have to think about this, right? So this is very important. You know, from a clinical side, I see so many patients come in each week, and almost everybody has some sort of Vata pushing Pitta Vikruti because of that's what they do. Some are real estate agents, some are this. They're doing exactly that. They have to be on call all the time. So that kind of way of this modern lifestyle is not balancing, right? And so we have to manage it through time management and so on. Awesome. Anybody else want to pipe in with that? About your experience with it? Yeah, Brittany, go for it.
I feel like I did really well because I struggle with insomnia. So I've been trying, or I was trying to turn off the lights as the sun was setting. And then summer happened, and suddenly, I mean, it wasn't even getting dark until 10 p.m. So we weren't even really turning on the lights. And now it's starting to get darker earlier. And I've realized, because I was like taking showers, it sounds creepy, but like not creepy, but taking showers by like candlelight and just trying to like tell my mind that it's getting ready for bedtime. And I totally slipped out of that habit with summer. And just yesterday, I when I tried to go to bed, I just couldn't. And I think it was because the lights have just been on.
So yeah, light exposure, right?
Yeah, and then I used to be pretty good at I had an alarm that would go off at 7 saying turn off screens, and now I've been watching TV until like 10 p.m. and stuff.
So this is really important. You're bringing up something again that you're going to encounter all the time, right? That's a modern lifestyle thing, right? So now nature isn't the modern lifestyle thing, you know. So yes, the summer's on and you're getting natural exposure to sunlight.
Oh yeah. Now the sun's setting, but I'm out of the habit of turning off the lights.
Okay, well, yeah.
I was just like, wow, it was really.
Do you live in a city too?
Yeah, I'm in the city.
So the city doesn't turn off the lights at that time, does it?
No.
No. So if you have windows and so on, that's another factor of modern lifestyle, right? That is aggravating. So again, we're talking about eyes again. You know, so, and there's other factors, of course. If we're trying to do too much in a day too, then we need to we tend to process that, and then we have a difficult time going to sleep because the pitta, that driti smriti, the aspect of processing is still churning. All right, it hasn't finished. So if we then watch television before and all this, we're adding more and more information, and it has to keep spinning until 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and so on to process all that information. Information overload, right? Yeah. Awesome. Okay, great. Good. So good job, everyone. Let me now talk about a little bit about what we're going to speak about today. Today's class is very, very important. We're going to go into samanya samprapti. It's the main thing. When you say samprapti in Ayurveda, this is the main subject, not the only, but the main way of looking at pathogenesis or disease process. We're looking at the stages of pathogenesis of samprapti. Why this is so important, I want to just emphasize right at the get-go, is this now really starts teaching us about the scope of practice of an Ayurvedic wellness practitioner versus an Ayurvedic practitioner or Ayurvedic doctor. Okay, it shows us, oh, if we understand this and we understand what symptomology, we'll know when to refer out because it's a little bit above what we can do to really fully help someone. Not that we can't lay a great foundation and do a lot for them, but it's good to ask for help after they're at a certain stage. Okay. I'm going to start off with a sutra about the stages of samprapti. Okay, so this is from Sushruta. Sanchayan cha prakopam cha prasaram stana samshrayam vyaktim bedam chayo veti doshanam sabhaved bishak vyaktim bedam chayo veti doshanam sabhaved bishak. So translated, sanchaya prakopa, prasara, sthana samshraya, vyakti, beta. Those are the 6 stages of samprapti or pathogenesis. And then chayoveti doshanam sa bhaved bishak. Chayoveti means of the doshas. These are the 6 stages of doshas being aggravated, okay, or being mobilized into pathogenesis. And then the last piece, sa bhaved bishak. Okay, what that means is that person that knows these is a physician. So that's a pretty hefty thing to say when you look at the sutras. It shows the importance of knowing this. So if one knows this, this is a primary piece of knowledge for someone to actually be called a physician. All right. So just kind of give us a sense perspective of like, yeah, this is core material that we need to learn and know well and memorize. Now, an easy definition for samprapti in general is the disease process or stages of illness. Okay, and in Western terminology, it roughly corresponds to pathogenesis, right, which is part of disease. And I mentioned that at the beginning of the first class when I gave you a chart. So these 6 stages are progressively from feeling a couple or noticing a couple, actually what we would consider natural things, to then noticing, oh, this is getting a little, something's going on, to like, oh, yeah, something's really going on. I can't quite place it. And then on top of that, then we start noticing purva rupa, and then we started noticing rupa, and then we have full-blown disease and complications. So that is a really important overview of what is in that disease process. Now, let's take a little quick, if you have your books available, there's a beautiful diagram on page 25 of this chapter. Okay, give you a moment here. It's the one with the bucket and the faucet. Okay. So in this diagram, and I can describe it for those of you that don't have that, I want to show that they start with a faucet that's starting to leak. Okay, that is in kind of poetic image of the doshas in their sites. And when it's leaking, what is it leaking into? It's leaking into a bucket, like a garden bucket. This represents the site of our doshas. So what are the main sites of the doshas? Their home bases.
Colon. Yeah? Like
Yeah,
that?
vata, yeah.
The stomach, the lungs, the
That's kapha.
yeah.
And?
Pitta, small intestine.
And stomach,
And
lower portion.
stomach, and vata, colon.
Yes, good. So exactly. So the doshas start accumulating in their site. That's the first stage, accumulation, sanchaya. Now, in the second stage, provocation, that bucket starts getting full. Okay? Let's say then if you divide a bucket into 3 pieces, the lower bottom, kind of like the vase breathing we're doing, is the normal level of a dosha. When it starts going to 2/3, we have accumulation. We have a little excess accumulation of quantity of dosha. Okay? So vata vridhi, or pitta vridhi, kapha vridhi. And then the next stage is provocation. So provocation means, okay, it's getting agitated and it's filling more. And it's starting to reach the brim of the bucket. So the bucket is full. Now that is provocation stage. So that's one on top of that. Now, if you imagine the water spilling out of the bucket, and where's it going? When it spills out of the bucket, it's going into your circulatory system. Okay, rasa and rakta dhatus, essentially. And it's starting to spread. That spread is prasara. It's the 3rd stage. Now, as it spreads, the next stage is it's looking to deposit itself somewhere. Okay? It's not escaping through the normal routes of coming out this way coming out through the bottom zone or through sweating or urine. It's not able to get excreted in the normal routes. So then it's searching for another way, and it has to find a place to hide or get lodged into your tissues. So those weak spots in the tissues will invite it. Anybody remember what the name for the weak spots of the tissues is? Give a shot. Come on, you get an automatic A in this course if you got it. No. So Kavaigunya, you got it. Kavaigunya, very good. I know. Be brave. It's okay. We can correct the Sanskrit. Kavaigunya. So it's searching for this. Now, our Kavaigunyas are waving little flags. Okay, they have a propensity for the doshas to come. They're inviting them. So if the dosha goes there and starts fighting with the agnis of the tissues, that is sthana samshray. That is deposition. So if it wins the battle, it starts depositing into the tissues. And we already spoke, I used this sutra beforehand, dosha dusha samurchino janito. So an amalgamation of dosha and tissue that causes disease. Okay, we're going to keep going back to that definition. This is where it starts to happen. But this is also this juncture of prasara spreading and brushing up against that kavaigunya in the tissue and starting to deposit. That's where purva rupa begins. Okay, that's where something's not feeling right. And it's not just normal, natural, kind of everyday stuff or seasonal stuff. This is a little more serious. Something's not feeling right. Right? Or something's off of me, but you go to a doctor, no, I don't know, just monitor it, or I'll give you a laxative, or do this, I'll give you Advil, whatever. Okay, so it's not diagnosable as disease yet. Okay, but it's a warning bell sign. So that's 4-stage deposition or localization, right? Sthana samshrayam. Now, if the battle is won, the agni is defeated, the tissue starts blending with the dhatu, the first thing that's going to start happening is, way back when in last module I started talking about functional or structural. Okay, functional, structural. So the first that happens is functional changes, and these take place in the dhatu, but it's going to come up as a symptom of a shrota, a system. So it's going to cause functional changes in your shrota. So let's say it starts depositing into your rasa, dhatu, your stomach lining, for instance, for example. And let's say you're getting a little acid ingestion. So pitta's going through this. It's starting to deposit into the stomach lining. And you're like, oh, God, I feel this kind of slight pain. You maybe get some burps, things like that. And then it deposits in there and it starts causing acid reflux. Now the direction of your digestion is starting to come up instead of properly going down. That's a functional change. Yes, there's a little structural going on there, but it's causing first some functional dysfunction. Then beta, whether it's Vyakti, and then beta is when it becomes very clear that structural changes have happened. That's when it is now a big ulcerated hole and you have a stomach ulcer. Okay, that's structural. That structure, that rasa dhatu is deformed, degenerated, broken apart, whatever it may be. Okay? And then come along with beta, the 6th stage is often complications. So if you have a big hole in your stomach, and stuff's going, acid's starting to go into all the organs around, you're starting to get some other pathologies too. Okay? So you can see it goes from a scale of seriousness, and it's really that 3rd to 4th stage that you see purva rupa, but once it's in that 5th stage, that's where it's concrete rupa, or cardinal signs and symptoms, and then we could classify it as a proper disease, something that's been known. Mm-hmm. Now, as far as Ayurvedic wellness counselors, where you really shine is up to the 3rd stage. That's where you can really help. Okay, and I'm going to go into how we do that and go into more detail now. But third stage that's an important thing to know, is up to third stage, you can do so much good and you can really reverse this process. And one must remember that even if someone is in Vyakti or Beta, the 5th or 6th stage, or deep into the 4th stage, you can still help, because if you can help the accumulation, provocation that's continuous, right? And the spread that's continuing to happen, so the disease is continuing to be aggravated, you can help really pacify the disease process and slow it down. Okay, and then you can refer out to someone like a Ayurvedic physician, do panchakarma to then halt the disease and reverse the disease process, or medical doctor, whichever. Okay, so that's the first time I'm just going to mention that, and we're going to keep going over that, and it'll make more sense. Now, let me speak about healthy, balanced doshas and the process of nature here, because sanchaya, the first stage, accumulation, and second stage, provocation, prakopa, are natural. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean that we're, oh boy, we're doing something wrong. Because of seasons, because of diet, even seasonal diet, so on. Even if you're doing everything well, that's still going to happen naturally. Doshas normally go through the first and second stage, and then before hitting the third stage, or even if they are in third stage, they can still do this. They can then be eliminated naturally. This is a process called prashamana. Okay, very, very important piece here. And it's not spoken about so much, I noticed, in a lot of Ayurvedic literature, but very important for you all to know. Prashamana is our natural body intelligence, our natural way of homeostatic balance and elimination of doshas. I'm going to give you a little example, because this tees into one of your assignments that you're all going to be doing, okay? One of your assignments is going to be to go through the seasons and show which doshas are being, first of all, accumulating, and then in what season they're going to be aggravated, and then what season is going to cause prashamana for those. So let me give you a little hint. So in spring, what two doshas are active?
Kapha and Vata. Kapha.
But kapha, and as spring gets
Pitta.
later, pitta. Yeah, pitta starts.
Yeah.
You see, everything starts melting. Snow starts melting. Rivers start flowing. Our nose starts flowing. Right. In the winter, really congested maybe, but then in spring we still have the congestion, but things over time start changing. So pitta starts now. Kapha's in what stage? Is in accumulation? I think in winter it's starting to accumulate, but in spring it is in provocation. Right? That's why we get colds, flus, and all that. But in spring, pitta's just beginning, so it's starting to accumulate. In summer, it is what?
Provocated.
Heck yeah, right?
Pitta is being provocated.
Yeah, it's in the second
by the
stage.
end of summer, Vata is being
And Vata's qualities is cold.
accumulating.
Vata's starting to accumulate in fall, but now
The end of summer.
Well, in the fall, Vata's starting to come in. Vata doesn't come in necessarily in the summer. It depends where you live, but it's in the generic kind of overview of the seasons, Vata comes in the fall, right? But let's kind of look at this little phase. So in the summer, what happens to kapha naturally? It's in the second stage, but what happens to kapha? Does it start kind of going away? Because pitta is going to start balancing that kapha. So prashamana starts happening. And then at the end of summer, vata is starting to kick in with the fall. Again, it depends where you live, of course, because some of us have some intense summers like here. But in, let's say, a normal, four seasonal environment, sort of like in the Northeast or Northwest of United States, for instance, you're going to, and probably a bit of Europe. Like I think Brittany probably, is fall starting to kick in a little? Is it thinking about it or not yet?
Sad about it. The last 3 days, I'm wearing long sleeves.
Oh, okay. So now the cool qualities start to come, and that is starting to create prashamana for the pitta, right? And this is ideally, if we all live in nature and everything's in balance and we don't have any issues going on, then that would be the natural cycle of things. Now, first, let me put one piece in. So we have weather that is doing this, but what else is doing it? Again, if we lived in tune with nature, we couldn't import foods from other places. We had to eat what was locally growing. What's coming into, what's a fruit that's coming in to season right now that's going to balance pitta pretty nicely? Anybody that has apple trees around them? No? Okay, go to the market, right? Go to the market. Apples are starting to come in season throughout the world. Early apples, but they're still, it's beginning, right? Bitter greens are starting to think about coming back because of cooler nights, right? So in nature, you see all this going on, right? So it's just beginning. That season is beginning. Fall vegetables and fruits are naturally starting to begin. I farm, so I'm, these are all things that are happening in my garden and so on. The herbs are then the roots that are more bitter, more cooling, are starting now to think about, like the flowers are dying down slowly, and the roots are starting to get energy that are then going to give you that cooling and cleansing for the pitta. This is nature. So if we eat by the seasons and we live by the seasons, then naturally prashamana happens. Yeah. So with that being said, that's going to be one of your exercises. I gave you half of it there. So if we as Ayurvedic wellness counselors, one of the greatest things we can offer to people is the wisdom to help them get back in touch with these seasonal rhythms, with what's growing outside and how that balances us, how that naturally creates that balance for the seasons that are aggravating, and be in tune with the weather and how we can use that to help us. All right? Yeah? Okay. I'm going to pause for a second for questions for you. I've given you a lot of info here. Is it clear? Is it understood? Okay. Yeah, I find this is one of the most beautiful things that Ayurveda just reopens our eyes to. We all know this deep down inside, but sometimes we forget about it, right? Oftentimes this world forgets about it. This modern lifestyle is very, very forgetful about this actual truth that's going on, right? So let me just speak about this a little bit more. Alongside of this, I want to point out something very, very important. In the first two stages of accumulation and provocation, if we're only in these two stages of the various dosha or doshas that are aggravated in our system, we still have bodily cellular intelligence. And what does that do for us? That gives us a natural impulse to be like, I'm pretty hot, I'm feeling heat. I want to eat some, I want to drink mint tea. I want to eat an apple. I want to do something cool. I want to maybe exercise in the evening or take my walks in the evening. I want to spend more time in the evening and maybe sleep during the day, like in many countries they do in the hottest part of the day. Right? So you have your natural cravings, your natural instincts intact. Yeah? On the third stage, you know that someone's in prasara for another reason, is either via the doshas are in prasara or there's ama being created by now. Either of those factors can then lead to you losing that connection to your natural intelligence. It's getting blocked by ama, and the natural intelligence is starting to get confused now. And then we have, in the books they call perverted cravings, but it means like, oh, I want to eat more chilies. Someone told me chilies are good for summer to like sweat it out. I want to, you basically things reverse and you want to keep doing the things that are driving you imbalanced. Raise your hand if we've had that experience, right? Yeah, I think all of us have probably hit prasara at some point or beyond. And then we start having these cravings. Maybe perhaps our mind is strong enough at those times to be like, you know what, I'm not going to do that. But most of the time we give in. right? And then the disease process continues. We're now feeding it. It turns from having natural impulses come up and us either listening to or not, or if we're not listening to, then it starts losing those natural impulses, and then it wants cravings for what imbalances us. Okay? So very, very important piece here, because this is, again, another place that you're going to be helping people to recognize, hey, that's not a great craving, and not a judgment call, but it just means that in your body there could be ama, there could be this stage of disease that's starting, this is what's causing this for you in the first place. Right? It's not your fault. But at that juncture of second and third stage where this starts happening, that's where prajna parada comes in. Remember prajna parada as a cause? So prajna parada, so then are we listening to the wisdom? Do we even know that yet? But once we know it, yeah, maybe I can do something about this. Think about if we taught our children this before they hit, prasara stage, which would have to be really young, but nonetheless, if they could keep these in urges, and be like, yeah, I think I'll choose an apple or minty or whatever instead of the chocolate and this and this and this. It's like, I know it's difficult because I'm in the midst of that and I've lost that battle, but nonetheless, it's if we start learning this kind of knowledge in schools and younger before things start getting too much deposited into the tissues, it could really make a huge change for the world, right? And could kind of bring that wisdom, give the wisdom strength and make it more obvious, right? But we can do that at any time. That's the great thing. Okay? Again, questions. I just kind of weaved in a lot of things from last class and so on.
Can you repeat the first three stages, like just the name?
Sanchayancha,
So it's
prakopamcha.
accumulation?
Yeah, sanchaya is accumulation.
Sanchaya.
Sanchaya. Then prakopa is provocation. That kind of sounds like, I like the names of these because if you say them, it has the feel of what's going on. So sanchaya, prakopa, aggravation, agitation. Prasara has this kind of like movement, this flow, which is spread. Yeah. Okay. Everybody clear about that? I do want to kind of open this up for questions if you have them so far, before I go into detail, stage by stage. Okay. Now, what I'd like you to have open, because this is going to be important, this is part of what's going to be very crucial for you to all memorize, because again, this is a really key piece of your scope of practice. Let me get to the right page. There's a chart on page 30, okay, and I'm going to pipe it out a little bit to Brittany too, is down the line, it's be lovely to have this chart as a printout chart for a study guide. So all of you right now making your own, photocopying this, creating this on your own as an exercise is a great idea, okay, for this chart. So page 30, what it is a chart of the stages, and then it gives some symptoms for each stage, for each dosha. Now, keep that open, and then on page 32, there's another chart that gives the primary gunas for each dosha that's associated with each stage. Okay? This isn't something that is absolutely, this is how it's going to go. It's not 100% like this, but this is a great approximation and gives us what commonly happens, okay? But it's a wonderful gift from Dr. Lod to have done this work and thought this through like this. So I like to put both of them together. So what I did in my book is I've written in the gunas with that chart in page 30, so it's kind of complete with that, okay? I'll encourage you to do that. So keep that chart kind of open as we're speaking about this. And then ultimately that's going to be your kind of like cheat sheet master chart to memorize common symptoms, common gunas, and then to help you recognize what stage of samprapti people are in, okay? So that's a good study tool for you. So let's now take the time to go into each of these stages and kind of flush it out a little more, add a little more knowledge and depth to it. Sanchaya, accumulation, the first stage. Okay, again, that image of the tap starting to drip water into the bucket. Now there's already a little water in the bucket because we always have Vata dosha in its site. However, it's starting to now go to 2/3 height, so it's starting to accumulate. So what this is meaning poetically is that the doshas are starting to accumulate in their main sites, Vata in the large intestine, Pitta in the stomach and small intestine, Kapha in the upper stomach and in the lungs. If you look at table 30, okay, there's the guna that's commonly associated respectively with the doshas would be cold for Vata, Pitta would be sour or liquid, okay, and Kapha would be heavy. So if someone's subjectively speaking about symptoms like that, you could say, okay, this can very well relate to Sanchaya. Now, symptom-wise, they're just feeling something, maybe around the anal canal, colon, rectal area, maybe just the feeling, just sense, Maybe they're having a little bit of constipation, not severe, but just a little. It's just getting a little harder, maybe a little drier, okay? And then there's some gases starting to go, maybe just a little bit. We're not talking about much. We're just talking about a little gurgling, a little bit of gas. I'm passing gas more than usual, okay? And then maybe a little bit of lower abdominal distension, okay? So these are all kind of symptoms that maybe happen that are kind of the pre-purva rupa, right? But more the doshic aggravated signs. Like if you remember when you studied doshas first in these courses, you learned a list of, okay, when Vata's aggravated, this and this and this and this are common signs of Vata aggravation. So here's some of the very light common signs of Vata aggravation that correspond to the first stage of accumulation. And cold quality is loosely, I'm going to say loosely because it's not like 100%, right? This isn't exact science here, but it's loosely related to that cold quality. Okay, because cold, kind of like Brittany, as you described, I have to start wearing sweaters and stuff. Cold is often the first sign. I know you're like, me too, but it hasn't quite happened for me, and it's not going for another month here. But cold is usually the first thing that starts happen when Vata comes in. Then the winds start coming in, right? Right? So, and also dryness. The rainy season starts ending. So does that make sense for all of you? And I'm talking very light manifestations, these symptoms. So for Pitta, let's go over that. Pitta, sour, which is a taste, but still it's a good thing to throw in here. So it's a little bit of sour liquid kind of quality. So maybe some sensitivity around your belly button, just sensitive, maybe to the touch. Intense hunger may increase, right? You may just feeling more of an appetite. There may be a little more yellowish to the eyes, okay? Now, very minor, not like yellow eyes. That's jaundice, different thing. The urine may be more frequently yellow. You may be more thirsty because of that, okay? So that liquid quality is being shown in that. Now, I would say that also would say the stools may be softening a little bit, right? I certainly have experienced that in the summer, that my stool is kind of softening, and it's like, oh, okay, well, there we go. Okay, so that's the Pitta, Sanchaya kind of symptoms. And then there's Kapha. For Kapha, again, the guna's heavy, often with this stage. Not always, but often. So just a feeling of heaviness. All right. Fullness of the stomach. Your stomach just kind of starts feeling full. Lower appetite. Maybe a little more lethargy. How many of you felt a little of that when winter was starting to kick in for you, assuming you live in a place that has a normal winter? Yeah? Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's kind of a natural feeling. You don't want to do as much as you did in the summer and so on and so on. Okay? Does that make sense? Yeah, Cindy, it looks like your mic's on.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
I'm,
no
I'm
problem.
on the car right now.
Oh, okay. Do you want to ask something? Okay, good. Brittany, yes, please.
So let's say you have one of these, I don't know, constipation
Mhm.
and vata, and you're in accumulation stage. So are you saying that we can balance it by adding heat, or we're just knowing that it has the cold guna?
Both. And yeah, and that may be, now, if the weather changes, that may balance it on of itself. But, maybe eating a little warmer foods, okay, which is naturally kind of, maybe you want to think about having some warmer soups or something like that, or just warmer foods. It can help that, yeah. This constipation can be caused. We're talking about really minor, like you haven't been constipated in years, and then okay, or in a long time, and then you're just going a little later, right, or something like that. Or we're not talking about like I missed for 3 days, my intestines are blocked. Okay, that's much more serious. Okay, does that make sense? So that'd be a worthwhile thing to try, assuming you had no other, if you're perfectly healthy and that's the only thing that's going on, right? Why not? Okay, so yeah, exactly. So this is the beauty of this, is it gives us some ideas of what things to try. Okay, so we're already starting to think about chikitsa here a little bit. Okay, so that's Sanchaya. Remember, doshas are localized in their main sites. They have not started leaving there yet. Okay, and the symptoms are very, very mild and are associated again with cold, liquid or sour, and heavy. That's an common thing. It's not, again, it's not a religion. You can't be like, oh, if it's not those doshas, it's not that stage. It's just a way of helping us see it. Next stage, prakopa, provocation. Okay. So this is the stage as this stage progresses, this is where we start also getting some bodily or mental or emotional or messages of like, hey, I should kind of start doing something. This is where our wisdom really starts kicking in. And hopefully we start listening to it here. Okay. So now the symptoms are a little more aggravated. So all the ones I've listed, this is all cumulative, these symptomologies. So all the symptoms I already listed are now getting a little bit deeper down the line, a little more serious. Like now you may be missing a day every once in a while, constipation, or you're going into nights or whatever, instead of first thing in the morning. But what's really important is, again, the cravings are starting to come to balance this. That's one kind of sign of this stage often. And let's look at vata here. So dry quality starts coming in. Okay. So, and this is in nature, you see this often. It's not always in this same progression, but oftentimes, hey, that humidity, if you live in a humid climate, the humidity starts passing out and it's starting to get a little drier, right? So you may have, the whole colon starts getting affected. It's not just the tail end. You start getting more effect in the colon. You start to feel maybe pain in the flanks or some discomfort in your sides a little more. Some more gurgling happening in the colon. Okay, this is where that would kind of start a little bit. Pressure under the diaphragm, perhaps. Okay, more generalized distension. So it's not just lower abdomen, it's more throughout the abdomen, distension feeling. Breathlessness. I'd say that's a little bit more of a severe symptom, but it's thrown in there. If you're just noticing, you may need to be breathing a little bit deeper or a little bit more breath coming in there. So that's the dry quality. Now you have cold and dry quality. Okay, it's cumulative. So cold and dry quality are manifesting. Okay, and these are very important qualities of vata right here. Very primal qualities of vata. So now you're probably wondering about the pitta, right? You see, wait a minute. The first thing you talk about is liquid. That's not so common, right? But in diseased pathogens, liquid is usually where pitta can start the process. But then in the second stage, hot is starting to come in. Okay, that's where we usually start noticing pitta, that heat. So acid indigestion, a little bit. We're talking about very minor. You just feel like a little queasy, a little bit of nausea, a little, the smallest aspect of maybe heartburn or just burning sensations. I know for me, I get very particular, kind of like my hair starts, like I feel like the roots of my hair are just feeling a little bit hot. Okay, that's also a sign of ama when the hair is kind of getting that, but that heat is, it's kind of coming out, or I'm sweating a little more, all right? I'm getting more effective. I eat something that's slightly warm, then I'm getting more of an effect than if I did it in the fall or winter. It's like, oh, this feels great. Now it's like, it doesn't feel as great, let's say. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. So kapha now, we have the liquid quality of kapha coming in now. Okay, so heavy and liquid. So excess salivation, cold, just feeling a little more cold, congestion starts coming in there. But it's a type of congestion that you're actually starting to get a little bit of runniness with it, okay? Mucus, a little bit more mucus is coming up. Maybe some nausea, but not that hot nausea, more like kind of cold, dull type of nausea. Maybe a little bit of cough, okay, because there's just a little more accumulation from mucus. Okay, so these are very minor versions of these symptomologies starting to happen. Okay, so essentially the cough is starting to get a little bit mobilized because it's accumulated and now it wants to kind of start getting out of your system, let's say. Okay. At this stage, if the cravings are intact, or if they're kind of getting challenged, or someone's not listening to the cravings, this is really where you can come in and you're noticing the symptoms of people and really help them identify that and empower them to listen to the cravings. Okay, this is a very important piece of where an Ayurvedic wellness counsel can really help with, and you yourself can help, turn around the disease process essentially. Next stage. Prasara. So prasara is a very important piece here. This is when the cravings start getting twisted. Okay, that's one sign that you're in prasara stage. Now what starts happening here is the bucket starts to pour over. The doshas are now, dosha or doshas, depends on what's going on, starts leaving its main sites. Okay, so where are they going? That's the next question, okay? Two answers to that. First of all, they're going into circulation. They're leaving their main site. The only way that they can leave your digestive tract is via your blood vessels. All right? And that's the only way things spread in the body necessarily, at least on a physical level, is through your lymphatics and blood vessels. So they are now doing that. Okay, they're starting to spread. That's one thing, but where are they spreading? They're spreading two places. Either a kavai gunya that's saying, red flag, hello, I'm open for you to come live here, or their natural sites. Not their main ones, but their other sites. So what are the other sites of vata that they may be getting drawn to as they're spreading in circulation?
The thighs.
Yeah, your thighs. So it's not just in the abdomen. You're starting to maybe feel some stuff around the thighs. Yeah, keep going.
Ears?
Yeah, ears, head, right?
Head.
Yeah. How about skin too and sensations? Yeah. Yeah, and then maybe tingling sensations. What about one very important dhatu that they're involved with?
The bones.
Yeah, bones, asti. Absolutely. All right. So let's just take a look at the symptomology. The symptomology in the book shows that. So dry skin. So that's a site of vata, right? It's not the main site, but it's now going to your skin. How's it getting there? Through the rasa rakta dhatus. It's traveling through circulatory and getting to your skin. Now, what guna is this? The key guna of vata.
Dry.
Hmm?
Dry.
Dry.
Well, at this stage, you have cold, you have dry, which is the second stage, and then the third stage is characterized by, since it's spreading, it is
Mobile.
mobile. Exactly. Is this starting to make sense now of why we have the list of the doshas and these gunas? And now we're starting to see the order of them in the disease process showing up. So dry skin, how did it get there? It had to move from your colon to get there to create that. So it took the dry quality from the second stage and is manifesting in your skin. Goosebumps, again, that's a skin sensation thing, okay? Cold hands and feet. As opposed to just cold in colon or abdomen, it's now colds, hands, and feet. It's using Vyana Vaya, right? Going out there, mobile. But the cold quality is now being manifested, which is one of the 3 qualities that have accumulated. Heart palpitations, right? There's Vata in the heart, in the SA node, right? Ringing in the ears. So ears are another site of Vata. So tinnitus, ringing in the ears, low level, not like extreme, but low level. Quivering thighs, right? Or just kind of getting little shakes. Abnormal pulsations of capillaries, right? So all these things, is this making sense here? Okay, great. So the same can now be said with Pitta. Okay, I'll go over the Pitta, so we can kind of quickly go through this. It's the qualities. Now, what are the qualities of Pitta that indicate movement? Because we always think about Vata with that.
Spreading?
Yeah, spreading. So that spreading guna is now what's going to show up for Pitta in this stage. So also oily, right? Oily guna is kind of associated with that. So spreading and oily. What do you think about? What kind of condition do you think about when you think about spreading and oily? Let's go through the sites first, and then we'll put it together. So what are the main sites of Pitta? I mean, not the main site, but the auxiliary sites of Pitta.
Eyes,
Yep, eyes.
skin,
Skin, subcutaneous fat there, yeah.
Heart?
Heart, yes.
blood,
Blood, yes. Sweat, yeah.
sweat,
And kind of gland secretions. And then liver, spleen, gallbladder, all those. And gray matter in the brain, right? Those are all sites. So now we're going to start seeing some symptomology along those. Okay, so first of all, what I was referring to, it's spread and oily. Well, if we correlate that to the skin, what's happening here?
Skin rashes?
Yeah, hives, rashes, urticaria, eczema is starting to begin to
Acne.
purvarupa.
Acne as well?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Yes. Yes, very good. So the list of symptoms he has here, intense heartburn. Okay. So that's leaving site going up. Okay. And kind of associated in the area of the heart. Burning eyes, red, kind of irritated eyes, right? So eyes, let's go into that. Hot flashes, just in general. Right? So for menopausal women, prasara stage, hot flashes. Kind of a more heaving heartbeat, more pulsing. It's more than palpitations, it's more like kind of intensive. Acidic perspiration, okay. Burning sensations anywhere in the body, right. Visible capillary network, okay, it's kind of more prominent. Okay, so those are some of the symptoms, but can you see the method to the madness when you start correlating liquid, hot, sour, bitter, that's included here too, spreading and oily now all together at this stage. Then we start, and then you put it to the subsites of Pitta, then the symptoms make a lot of sense. Right. And then finally Kapha. So let's first think about the sites of Kapha. Kapha, again, the main site's stomach and lung, but what are some other subsites of Kapha?
The sinuses?
Sinuses, yeah, the head, nose, sinuses, mouth, throat. That's one.
oral cavity,
Mm-hmm.
brain,
Brain, white matter of the brain, yeah.
The lungs?
And that's the main site.
Oh, yeah, that was amazing.
How about pancreas? Pancreas, yeah. Tongue, right?
joints,
Yes. I'll include that. It's not the classical
well,
subsites, but
bones,
subdosha. Not necessarily bones. That's going to be vata. But
okay.
lymph nodes and mastic tissue too for women, right? And in the joints, it's synovial fluid. In the joints in particular is cough related. Okay. And that's very much Sleshaka kapha, right? One of the subdoshas. Just to be clear, subdoshas are different, but very close to the sites that we're talking about. These are subsites of it, and then subdoshas are generally, again, correlate to these subsites. So it's not exact science, though. Okay, it's not exact. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But they give you a lot of wisdom. Okay, like Bodhaka kapha, tongue. Okay, all right. Avalambak is then lungs, you know, so on. But it's nice to have a chart of the subsites and then keep the subdoshas in mind and then keep these gunas and so on. If you have all that together and you can look at it and you're like, oh, this starts making sense. This is all working together. Okay, so if someone's having a problem in the subdoshas that aren't related to the normal site and or the subsites, and you're seeing these gunas manifest, you know it's at least in prasara stage, right? Okay, so let's look at some of the symptomology. So water retention anywhere. All right, that's going to be, again, plasma. And that's another subsite of there. Sinus congestion, again, head, throat, sinus congestion. Lymphatic congestion, again, lymphatics is a subsite. Slow heartbeat, okay, so heart is related there, okay. And then we have excessive salivation, bodhaka kapha, again, mouth. Generalized heavy feeling, just a kind of a feeling of heaviness, okay. Good, so up to this point, it's very important for you to memorize these and get a really good sense, because this will really help you become a really good diagnostician of the early stages of doshic involvement. I'm saying this because there's two more things we need to think about. First of all, ama. We haven't talked about ama because ama's characteristics and symptoms can tag on to any of these stages. Okay? And then on top of that, there's a lot of other things that can go along with this. And I would say things may not happen as you think they would in this natural progress. So that's something to keep in mind. This is just a guideline. It doesn't mean always it has to go this way. Okay? In prasara stage, let me mention one thing that's very important here. So in prasara stage, the spreading stage, we know a couple things. Some perverted cravings have started to come up. We're starting to lose that innate wisdom. So now we're probably starting to do things that perpetuate this. Okay? We as Ayurvedic wellness counselors can help this. The seasons, there's still a chance for prashamana, natural balance, to occur if we reverse doing what we're doing. And when the doshas are spreading, they have not found weak agnis in the tissues or a real kavaigunya that invites them that has a weak agni. Because generally kavaigunya is mean in place of weak agni. So if the agnis win the battle and don't let them into the tissues, guess what occurs? Prashamana. Okay. However, that's very rare to meet a person that has an absolute perfect health that has no kavaigunyas. Okay. So that's very theoretical. But you can see still, though, if we start cutting the roots of this doshic aggravation in the first 3 stages, no matter how far the samprapti has gone, we are helping. And we're helping at the root level. So your scope of practice of being able to pretty competently deal with these up to this 3rd stage is really helpful at any stage. But then now we're kind of crossing lines. So let's go into the 4th stage, sthana samshrayam. Okay, so here, what's happening in sthana samshrayam? This is deposition. So there is likely a kavaigunya. Well, there is a kavaigunya, I should say. And we now start seeing purva rupa happening. At that juncture, prasara and sthana samshraya, we see purva rupa, prodromal symptoms. This is showing symptoms now of early stages of the doshas entering the dhatus. Okay, dosha, or I should call it dhatu lakshanam. Up to now, we had dosha lakshanam, signs and symptoms of just doshic aggravation. Again, I'm not including ama in this yet. There could be ama too, and you may see ama lakshanam, signs and symptoms of ama. Okay, but we had doshic signs and symptoms only. Now we're starting to see signs and symptoms of dosha amalgamated with the tissues, but the very lightest ones of them, the most warning bell, prodromal signs and symptoms of these. Okay? So that's what's starting to happen. So now what's happening at Stanashrayam at the beginning, I'm going to call this a big phase as opposed to just another stage. It's a phase. At the beginning of the phase, you start getting some Purvarupa, you start the Agni of the Astai Dhatu gets messed with. It's fighting a battle with the doshas. If the doshas fail, then they get sent away, get out of here, go back in circulation, and hopefully prashamanam happens, or they find another place. Otherwise, if they win against the Agni then gets vitiated, either becoming Vishama, Tikshna, Manda, of that Agni, of that Dhatu, I should say. The Dhatu Agni becomes that. And thus we see Dhatu, remember from last course, Dhatu Vriddhi, Dhatu Kshai, or Dhatu Dushti. Yeah? So when this occurs, the dosha is entering, and now we start seeing symptoms of it entering. And this is very dependent on the Kavaigunya and the different dhatus. So I'm not going to go over all those because that's a huge chart. Okay, on your chart in the book it says, see in the appendix the entry of doshas into the dhatus. We'll get into that a little later. Okay, when we go over dhatu vijnanam, or special knowledge of the dhatus. Okay. But what gunas are allowing, for each dosha, what gunas are allowing each dosha to possibly do this and to start fighting that Agni? So for Vata, which Vata guna is indicative of that?
Subtle.
Yeah, sukshma, subtle. Right? That's what's needed to penetrate into the tissues. How about Pitta? That's the easy one, right?
Sharp.
Sharp, tikshna.
Sharp.
Right? How about Kapha? That's an interesting one because you don't think about that with Kapha. It's not obvious.
Slimy and sticky.
Yeah, so the slimy stickiness of it fights the Agni and thus makes it Amanda and then starts going into the tissues. Now remember, at this stage, you're also including all the other cumulative gunas, right? So for Kapha, it'd be heavy, liquid, oily, and slimy and sticky now coming in there. Again, this isn't religious doctrine here. It may be a little varied, but still, this is just a common way that it's processing this. Okay? So now, like I said, Purva Rupa starts occurring. So little, you know something's going on, but it's vague. You're not sure yet. Or, a skilled physician, for instance, in Ayurveda, if you look in like Madhavandana, it lists for every disease, it lists Purva Rupa for them, so that we can learn those in Ayurvedic practitioner level and doctor level, so we can become familiar with that and start taking action to prevent diseases from fully manifesting. Okay, this is where Ayurvedic practitioners can really shine. Okay. Questions? Okay, I just downloaded a lot of information on you, so I just want to make sure you're understanding.
I had kind of a question, but it might be too soon. You had mentioned Ama, and then that got me thinking. What if someone is like experiencing a breakout, acne, and that's because of Ama? Would you say that that is separate because it's an Ama related, or that it is a Pitta Sanchaya? No, Prakopa, or whatever one it is.
Okay, yeah, great question. So everybody got that question? Okay, so beautiful question. Thank you. It's a great example. Let's think this through. So first of all, can Ama go anywhere without the doshas? Can it be generated without the doshas?
No, because it needs to move.
Not only does it need to be moved, but what generates Ama?
Toxins, undigested things.
What affects our digestion so it can't digest the toxins?
Agni.
So
doshas.
Agni first gets vitiated by the, you said it,
Doshas.
Carla, doshas. Chicken
Okay.
before the egg. So doshas are always the root. Dosha, dusha, samuchna, janito. It's the root of the disease, right? In Ayurvedic perspective. There's some exceptions, like if you drink poison, okay, you know, that's going to defeat it, doshic or not, right? But that's still the doshas. Some people can drink poison and not be affected by it. Great yogis, okay? Their Agni is strong enough, okay? So that still, you know, leaves us that doshas are always first. Now, if the dosha has not left its site, you're going to have ama in your digestive tract, period. It's not going to go further into your tissues, right? It'll be stopped there, but you'll still have it, but it'll be stopped there, okay? Hence, we have covered tongues, right? That's a primary sign that it's in our digestion, so before it even begins to spread. Some people have clean tongues, but the ama is already spread and it lodged into the dhatu, and you can't see that. You have to infer from other signs, okay? But a wonderful question. So everybody got that. So first, ama started in digestive tract. Then it has to tag on. It has to have an avenue of spread. So the aggravated doshas in prasara stage will then bring the ama to skin, face, going upward to the face, and ama. That's sama pitta. Pitta with ama. There. Huh? Make sense? We haven't quite covered all those concepts or in the detail that I want you to know them yet. Let's say we will near the end of this course. So you'll really get that. But is that making sense for you? I'd like you to start thinking about those things. Okay, don't forget ama. You have learned the signs and symptoms of ama. So if you're seeing that and it's somewhere besides the digestive tract, what stage is it in then? The one or a few of those doshas are in at least?
Prasarta.
Exactly. Good. Thank you. That was a great question. Okay, so we just covered sthana samshaya. Again, I'm not going to go into purva symptoms for all the diseases. That's a huge subject, right? But I want you to remember that that's it. Another piece I want to add in here is this is where Dr. Lott in the textbook mentions something very nice, kinetic and potential energies of expression of disease. In sthana sanshram, we start seeing the kinetic expression, i.e. purva symptoms, like active expression of a disease, whereas disease was in potential form in the first three stages before it got into the dhatus. Because when our doshas are aggravated, since they can cause disease, they're the potential cause of disease, but the kinetic expression, actual energetic expression, is once they've got into the tissues. That's one nice way of looking at it. For some of you, maybe that clicks if you like talking about kinetic or potential. The next piece I want you to reflect on now is in the dhatus, since now the doshas entered the dhatus in sthana samshaya, it's lodged in that spectrum. It's finished the lodging process. It is now going to start creating functional changes first, usually. Functional changes. So, and this is going to be relating that dhatu with whatever shrota, it's our system in our body. You're going to start seeing some functional changes. So, anybody remember in the shrota section what the 4 types of shrota dushti are? So, two of them relate to functional changes, 2 of them relate to structural changes of those 4 dushti, if you look at them. The first one is, you don't have to do Sanskrit.
One is overflow.
So excessive flow.
Stagnation. Excessive flow, stagnation.
So stagnation is underflow or stagnation, yeah. Those are functional. Yeah. And the other 2 are?
Functional.
Yeah. So we have overflow, underflow.
Wrong flow.
Yeah, out of the channel. That's structural. There is a perforation in the channel. That's structural.
Deviated or something like that. When
Yeah, deviated flow. Sure. Hmm. And then there's also kind of dilation or overgrowth in the channel, like blockage. So it's kind of like the furthering of stagnation, right? It's still flowing in stagnation, but here it's dilating, tumor, etc. Sangha. Right? So those two are structural. The last two are structural. The first two, overflow and underflow, are functional. Okay. I know it's getting a lot in here, but I'm trying to correlate it. So this stuff, as it's showing you how important this is here. So at Vyakti, from Stanashan Samshrai and into Vyakti, the next stage, you're seeing functional changes, overflow, underflow. Okay, that's characteristic of those stages. Okay. If anyone wants to ask a question, please do. Just if that's not computing, I'm keep going into deeper levels. Good. Okay. So next stage, Vyakti. We know now the dosha has entered and is messing with the tissues. Okay. It's messing with the tissue agni and thus causing purva rupa in sthana samshaya. Now Vyakti, what characterizes this is rupa begins. Cardinal signs and symptoms are now there. And this is where you usually go to the doctor and be like, yeah, I got this going on. I didn't, I was feeling a little off, but now this is going on. I need to go to a doctor. That's where usually people go to the doctor. And that's when it's very late too, because it's actually in the tissues and manifesting now as, oh, you have diabetes, you have this, you have this, you have this, you have a peptic ulcer, you have this, all right? Another important piece here is in Vyakti, first of all, it's definitely a much more gross expression of the symptoms of the Purvarupa. They get accelerated. Purvarupa gets much worse, let's say, or grows, and then the cardinal signs and symptoms are added on. There's more to talk about here. Again, it's like in practitioner levels, we can talk a little bit deeper in here. But what's important to see here is now you're seeing increased tissue, vriddhi kashai, and in Vyakti, you're really starting to now see dushti. The gunas are expressing themselves in the tissues clearly. Okay, the tissues are now, and you can see there's a chart of the entry of the doshas into the dhatus in the appendix. In that chart, they start showing you conditions that clearly exemplify gunas. Right? Peptic ulcer, I'll use the same example. Now, in that, the sharp guna is really clear. Right? You're starting to get this lightness, a lot of burpings coming up too, and so on. You're starting to see cardinal signs and symptoms of peptic ulcer that's diagnosable. And it's definitely making some functional changes, and it's beginning its journey on structural changes. Okay, but the gunas are obvious. Before, the gunas may have been obvious if you had a really good eye, but now they're like, hello, we're here, and it's clear. Okay, there's no if, then, and but about it anymore in Vyakti stage. Okay, that's an important point to know. Is that again, a very experienced doctor can see the gunas early on. Right? And you're being educated to see them really, really early on to start preventing disease. But again, with clinical practice, you start seeing these gunas kind of, they become more obvious to you. But once they're in Vyakti stage, like no one can deny them. It is so clear. And that's where Rupa really starts expressing. Those are like, symptoms are clear. There's no if, then, and but about it. There's either a clear diagnosis or, if they haven't named the disease yet, but there is a clear disease then, okay? So that's Vyakti. And then lastly, Beta. Beta, of course, is accumulating. More gunas are added on, and it's now structural changes start happening. So structure gets changed. Okay, now there's that tumor, dilation of the shrota. There's false passage, it's breaking, you're bleeding out of things that shouldn't be bled out of. so on. That's very serious. Let's take a quick look at go back to the chart of the gunas. So for Vyakti stage, you have rough now leads to dry. Rough now leads to. Dry, cold, mobile, and subtle now lead to rough. Okay, and we're always wondering, like, where do we see that rough guna in Vata? So rough gets more obvious. Okay, that's where you start getting osteoarthritis, for instance. Okay, instead of popping, cracking joints, that is maybe kind of like cold and dry and maybe mobile, you're now getting rough. It's starting to grind on each other, and that's arthritis, right? Osteoarthritis. In Pitta, you see light quality. Someone may start losing weight because of that. Right? Kapha, you see soft. Okay, that's a really key one there. Cloudy. Okay, cloudy urine, diabetes starting to come in. Right? Softness of the tissues. Tissue muscle tone starting to waste away or lose tone due to disease process. In Beta, the gunas get a little more severe. You start now seeing that clear piece in Vata, but the negative effects of clear. Okay, severe dehydration, muscle wasting, emaciation, degenerative changes, severe osteoporosis, clear. These bones are more cloudy, right, if you look at them, so clear. Loss of function, and very, very serious diseases or diseases that have hit a very deep stage, and also complications associated with those diseases. Okay, so you may have diabetes, but then you're also having hypothyroid, or you're also having something else that's commonly associated with it in severe stages, or severe neuropathy. In Pitta, we have fleshy smell. Things start fermenting inside of us. Okay, not a good thing. Gangrene, for instance, if someone has diabetes, the lack of circulation, everything has gotten so bad, it's perforated out of the tissues. The blood's starting to leak in there into our body tissues. So hematoma, for instance, abscesses, gangrene, deep ulceration, like the ulcer is now penetrating to organs nearby it, things like this. Very serious. And kapha, now you see hard, dense, right? Gross, static, so severe blockage. Let's say if we took kapha constipation to the max, you have now intestinal obstruction, very severe thing. Right? And with that, it's now puffing out into your intestines and causing deformation of them and structurally changing them. So stagnations, tumors, okay, cancerous tumors, so you fall into this, coma, severe edema, lymphedema, okay, so things like this, structurally serious issues. These we want to refer out to, right? You definitely want to refer out and get support. You may still be able to help tremendously by cutting the roots of the early stages of doshic aggravation by diet, lifestyle, and some basic herbs, but you want to refer out because people at this point really need panchakarma and or, you know, sometimes to go into hospital or acute care, palliation care. Okay, so I've ended up there. I want some questions from y'all to kind of make sure everything's making sense. Brittany?
So I thought we would send them out at Stana Samshraya. But you're saying at Betas when? No.
I would just definitely start thinking about it at Prasara, Stana Samshrai, right? At that junction. So yeah, that's a good place that you need some aid, because once it's getting into the tissues, you need to draw it out of the tissues, i.e. herbs, panchakarma, etc., etc. Yeah. Beta, you know, here's the reality. How many of you have already seen some people, talked to people that are in beta stage? Right? Yeah, or Vyakti stage. Yeah, of course. Anyone with a diagnosed medical condition is in that stage. So can you still help? Yes, you can. But can you cure or do the full job? Probably not. So it's really nice to have a helper, like an MD in on it or an Ayurvedic physician, you know. So it just depends, but it's kind of beyond our scope of what we're getting trained with here. But I don't want you to forget that you can help, but you can aid so much, but you also need support. They need support. So to be respectful with our clients, it's important to get that support. Make sure that they have it. And I say this because this is the issue about the scope practice is you don't want to take on more than you can chew. That could be dangerous. If you're like, oh no, I can work with you with diabetes. It's like, well, you can, maybe you can help a lot, but what if it isn't? What if something goes wrong? What if it's missed? They need to be managed by something else, okay? So very, very important for your safety and your client's safety. Remember, first do no harm. You know, it doesn't matter what tradition. That is the bottom line for any type of healing arts profession. Right? And that means get people the help that they need and don't try to take it on if it's beyond what you can do. Okay? Please, more questions.
Well, not really a question, but I guess that's what we'll be doing mostly then, because that's when people come, right? They come when they already have something pretty severe, and then they're like, oh, well, maybe something alternative is going to help now.
Yeah. So here's the good news. If they have something severe, they've seen a doctor and they've been diagnosed and they're on treatment. So that's already done for you, right? If they come with you with some severe symptoms and they've not gone to a doctor, then you sure as heck should be sending them to the ER or a doctor. Absolutely. But I've never had that happen to me. In all these years I've been there, no one's come in and been like, yeah, I got this, da, 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 da. And it's like, it's just not happened. People come in, they're already diagnosed, they've been trying all kinds of things. So they have a support system, so they're not going to die on you. That's like, and you can work with them as part of the team. Okay? So yeah, don't worry about it. And if they do, send them to the ER. I don't know if you noticed, but a lot of healthcare practitioners always have on the phone, if this is a medical emergency, please call the ER or your doctor. You know, it's like, don't wait on me until I get back to you in 24 hours. So you need to take care of yourself. Okay, so there's nothing to worry about here. It's more just to be knowledgeable about. And yes, that is the case. If they have a severe thing, they're already diagnosed likely. Okay. Okay, good. More questions, please. If you're all set, and you can ask me, and then
Can I ask something?
please,
So
yes.
So usually there probably if someone comes to you, it's a mix of all three doshas or of all three things, right?
Sometimes.
Or
A mix of all three doshas is
or two or
two is very common.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's usually the doshas that are most predominant in that person, right? That get aggravated most.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, with me, I can see I'm Vata Pitta, mostly Pitta, but I can see that first, it's always first, of course, Vata. So first, I get cold hands, I get cold, but then I get cold from the outside, but inside I'm very hot because I get like heartburn. No, not heartburn, but like it looks like that. But then I still have really cold hands and goosebumps, and I have to wear sweaters and scarves, but inside it's like burning.
Pitta's blocking Vata.
Ah.
Pitta can block Vata, so can't Kapha. No? I'm just pointing out to say that there's so many possibilities. Again, that's why we're thinking about differential diagnosis. So in your case, Pitta's blocking Vyana Vata. So when that Pitta gets resolved, then the Vyana Vata, you'll probably, barring I don't know the case history, so that your whole hands will probably start going away. Yeah. So yes, there's Vata thing, but chicken or egg, who's causing it first? Yeah. So I'm gonna guess that once that Pitta gets cleared and it starts blocking the Vata, then the Vata will do its thing. It'll circulate there. Yeah. Yeah, so, for instance, like some common, like CCFT, to deal with the Pitta digestion, and then throwing in a good dose of cinnamon in there, along with the cooling things to make that balance, may start moving that through you and getting, the Pitta out it's with tripla or amalaki, get it out of your system, or avipatakar, and then the cinnamon will help to start getting the circulation going. Yeah? Yeah. I mean, that's just a jump. I'm just giving you an example of how we work with that. Yeah. 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 But vata is in the prasara stage, though, right? Right? So it's affecting that, the mobile. But it's probably also playing with pitta and pushing around. I'm going to guess that you're not just having pitta symptoms in your stomach or a small intestine, right? They're probably in other places. So vata's helping to push it to those other areas. Let's talk about that. That's the next subject. I want to cover two more things before we end this call. Okay, those two things are Vyadi Marga and then Gati. And please pay attention. These are important things. I think we're just going to spend a little time. I'd like you to read about them well, because this will come up in a lot of Ayurvedic books. Okay. So along with Samprapti, one way of looking at Samprapti in whole is the Vyadi Marga. Vyadi meaning disease, Marga meaning road. Vyadi Marga. So otherwise known as the pathways of disease. In the first two stages, the doshas are in their seats, right? They're their main sites. This is called Abhyantara Marga. Okay, it's in your book, Abhyantara Marga. That's the inner pathway. Abhyantara Marga is doshas being your seats, they're in your digestive tract, essentially. Okay. The next of the three is Bahya Marga, B-A-H-Y-A. Bahya Marga is the external pathway of disease, meaning the doshas are now in the third stage. They're in prasara. And they are going in the rasarakta dhatus and circulating. Okay, they're not in the dhatu themselves. They've tagged onto the dhatus and are circulating through your body with the blood and plasma. Okay, that's Bahya Marga. And then Madhya Marga means deep pathway. That means they have now entered into your dhatus and tissues are ojas, tejas, and prana, and so on. This is Sthana Samshray through Beta, the 4th through 6th stage. Okay? It gives you a model to think about. Where is disease happening? What's a little different than what I just said in here too is that disease can happen. All 6 stages can happen in Abhyantara Marga. If you have duodenal ulcer, if you have peptic ulcer, if you have a just digestive tract issue that's up to 6th stage, then it would still be classified as Abhyantara Marga. The doshas didn't have to move far. They just got worse and worse in their seat. So that's what's useful about this model is Abhyantara Marga gives you an idea. Is the dosha moving far from sight, or is it going through the whole disease process in sight? But in general, the first 2 stages are very characteristic of that. Does that make sense? So I don't want you to take it religiously like the first 2 that's the only possibility of Abhyantara Marga. A disease can be in gastrointestinal or Anavahashrota's disease. And it can reach the 6th stage in Abhyantara Marga. And that goes with Bahya Marga, the Rasarakta. If disease implants into your Rasarakta dhatu, polycythemia, any kind of blood disease, let's say, anemia, so on, lymphatic congestion, right, or lymphedema, etc., that would be in Bahya Marga, the circulatory. Okay, and then disease that affects any other tissue, bone, muscle, right? Chronic fatigue. Oh God, one was on my mind. Anyways, osteoporosis, Parkinson's disease in Majidhatu, let's say, Alzheimer's Majidhatu. That's in deep tissue or Madhya Marga. Make sense? That model. That's a good thing to reflect upon is where is the person having disease? So let's say, and I'm just going to use just for reference. So you probably have some Abhyantara Marga stuff going on, right, with Pitta. And then you said cold hands and feet. Well, that's in Bahya Marga, right? And I don't know if you have other symptoms, but other things, maybe you do have something that's in the deeper tissues too.
loose stools, which is also pitta.
That's Abhyantara Marga still. Yeah. Now let's say you had parasites there. That'd be I'm just making something up. Or you had Crohn's disease, or if you had ulcerative colitis, it'd still be an Abhyantara Marga, but it'd be at Vyakti or Beta stage. Okay? Make sense, everybody? So that's an important, that you're going to be hearing those margas, those pathways, throughout your Ayurveda life. And I want to make sure you're familiar with that and what people are talking about. Lastly, dosha gati. This is fun stuff. And I'm going to try to make it simple for you. Dosha gati means the vector or movement of the doshas. Okay. Now, what is this referring to is when the doshas leave their main sites, if you have a condition that is not in the main site, what direction is it? Right? And the beauty of dosha gati is that it pulls together what we've just learned really well in these different view models of disease movement and kind of puts them into a nice little system. So there's 9 vectors, 9 gatis, 9 types of movement that are described. The first, I'm going to talk about the first 3 as Koshta, Sankhya, or Shanka, and Marma. They just decided to use synonyms for Koshta being in sight, which means Abhyantara Marga, basically in their main sites in digestive tract, okay? So if you hear Koshta Gati, that means it's in its site. The disease is happening in its site. It's not moving through the other. If you hear Shanka, that means Prasara or Bahya Marga in circulatory, okay? So all they're doing here is just using synonyms, different words for the same concept that I just covered. And then there's Marma, which correlates to Madhya Marga, or Madhya Marga of disease. So that means in the tissues. But the beauty of listening to this, or working with this, is that I like that they call it marma, because marma points or treatments to the marmas specifically work with the deeper tissues and get toxins out of the deeper tissues to reverse the process of disease. So that's one reason why they gave it that synonym. Every word in Ayurveda has deep meaning, right? So those are 3 of the 9 vectors. Those are ones that kind of obviously go with Vyadi Marga, the last concept I shared. The next 3 are Sthiti, Kshaya, and Vriddhi. Oh, lucky. Hey, we just heard about that. We know that, right? That's the common ways to talk about doshic increase, Vriddhi, doshic decrease, Kshaya, and Sthiti just means the doshas are balanced. They're only 1/3 of the bucket. They're in the proper proportion for us. Okay, so if doshas are Sthiti, you have no problems. Doshas are well balanced. If doshas Vriddhi, that means they're accumulating, provoking, on and on, right? Okay, if they're Kashai, that means that they're decreased in their site, and that's a little more serious conditions usually. Okay, hypothermia and stuff like that for like the pitta, and going into shock for vata, for instance. Okay, it's rare that you ever get a case that doshas are actually decreased. Yeah, but it can happen in more severe issues, or kind of acute severe issues. But anyway, so we have Sthiti, Vriddhi, and Kashai, and that's language you already know. The first 3 were language you just covered, but they just gave it synonyms, right? So that leaves us with 3 directions that doshas can go: Urdhva, Adho, or Tiryag. These are, I think, the most relevant take-home from Dosha Gati study. Urdhva Gati means going upwards. Adho Gati means going downwards. Tiryag means going side to side or centrifugally, going out to the extremities. So, and if you don't mind, I'll use the example since you offered this. So, okay, say you have some loose stools. Well, stools normally go down, but should they go that much down? No, so that's Adho Gati Pitta, right? And what's pushing that is likely apana vayu. Apana vayu is a little excessively flowing, so it's pushing that. So you got adogati. Now, what if you had migraine headaches and you had a lot of heat in your eyes and pain here? That's urdhva, upward gati pitta. Right? That's not the normal direction pitta goes. Pitta should be going down, right? So you got to do something to reverse that. Okay. What would you do to reverse that? Would be Virachana in Panchakarma. Downward flow with purgation. Or as well as counselors, we can't necessarily do that, but we can give them Triphala, we can give them Amalaki, we can give them Avipatakar to help the downward flow so that they purge out a little bit more. Okay. Now, if someone has severe diarrhea in Panchakarma, you may consider doing Vaman to reverse the direction, get the energy moving up. That can stop it. Okay, it depends. You know, it's not always the case, but okay. So this gives us the directions of treatments and herbs and or practices and treatments that we can do to reverse the directions of overstimulation. Tiryag means, again, side to side. This is if a person has like pain more over to the sides or the doshas accumulating sides, or more commonly means in the extremities, like in the hands and feet. So cold hands and feet, we want to give something that draws that back into center. Kind of like what I told you, at first stimulate it with that circuit, with the cinnamon, let's say tafak cinnamon, and then get it moving back through. So I'd probably give you something to, clean it out of your system after we controlled the loose stool, okay? To get the pitta out of there. Create a suction towards the center, okay? We've covered all the bases here. Questions? I want to make sure those last things make sense for you. It's a lot of stuff.
It makes sense, but like you said, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. Again, we're gonna touch on this throughout the rest of your training, and this is a very fundamental. The key piece I want to just mention to you, the key things that I'd like you to do is memorize the stages. Start the journey of memorizing these symptoms with the stages and the gunas. I know that's going to take a while. Okay, it takes time. Like, I don't have it fully memorized. I can't do it off the top of my head. But make a chart for yourself, okay, of the dosha, the stage, some common symptoms, and the gunas. And just kind of make sure you connect the dots of, oh, this guna, that's why. And the subsites, have the subsites around. Just have that. That's what I recommend to you. Have those together and start piecing them together. And that'll start getting familiar. So your eye, your ear can start hearing from people these common complaints, and that you can start putting them into the right boxes. Okay, you may not be perfect, and this system is not perfect because things happen in their own unique way too, but more often than not, this is also happening. Okay, and it'll really begin, and also teach you about scope of practice, or when to be like, you know what, I want to make sure this person has some more help or sees someone to deal with this, because I can help a lot, but they're probably going to need to also have someone else. And is that someone else doing the job for them? All right? So there's a lot of learning. And again, Vyadi Marga is entirely I just want you to be familiar with those words. So when you hear them, see them in other contexts, you know what you're talking about. And Doshagati, again, the last three are really the more important ones. Everything else is just words you've already heard in different synonyms. Okay, but I do want you to be familiar with that concept. Again, that is core material. That is material you can be tested on. Right? What Dr. Ladd's doing in these books is taking, Charaka, Shruta, Madhava Nidana, all these ancient texts, and put them into a way of learning it. But some of these concepts come from various texts and various time periods of Ayurveda, but he's trying to compile them all together so that you have a plethora of things in all these little roots of wisdom. That's the beauty here. It's a lot, but instead of being overwhelmed by it, just look at the connections. See how much overlap this is, and kind of really focus on those overlaps. And that'll help you make it a little simpler for yourselves. Okay, so any last questions? Yeah, please.
I feel like I'm asking a lot of questions today.
It's okay.
You,
It's okay.
you suggested taking the table, I think it's page 28, or the first big table.
It's page 30 and page, I believe, 32.
So the table at 30, and then putting the subsites of the doshas around, and then was there a third thing you suggested?
Yeah, let me clarify that. So you take the core table is page 30. On that table, I would suggest page 32, the gunas relating to each stage of some property, put them in there, into those boxes. That'd be really useful for you. That's why I have it written in my book. And then outside of that table, but nearby, I would put in the subsites of the doshas. And in the prasara stage for each of the doshas, put a little note. Look at subsites of vata. Look at subsites of pitta. Look at subsites and subdoshas. Subsites and subdoshas of vata, pitta, kapha in their respective box. That'll give you a beautiful study tool. And it'll also allow you to make sense of all this. And please note, too, that the gunas are cumulative with each stage. So it's not just you're only getting cold in the first stage, then it goes away. No. It's, gets aggravated more and more usually. Okay, it's a beautiful study tool for you to create, and I recommend it. And in retrospect, it'd be nice to have that as an exercise, right? A challenge assignment. But here it is now, and that's what I did, and it helped me tremendously. Dr. Laud's done the work for us. Yay. Any last questions? Stephanie, I haven't heard you speaking very much. But maybe perhaps you have a question?
Just trying to conserve my energy today. I was just wondering if they had like a reverse process for when people are in a healing process, like are there stages of healing? Because that's what I'm interested in right now.
Thank you. That's a great question too. Thanks for bringing it up. I alluded to that. So let's take panchakarma, okay? Or you see, up to the third stage, you have prashamana, okay? That is the reverse process, when the doshas then go back through the stages by being eliminated naturally through our excretory pathways, okay? Mm-hmm. If it's beyond prashamana and it gets into marma marga, it goes, when it's in sthana samshraya, it goes into marma or madhyama marga, on the vyadi margas, right? It goes into the deeper tissues. The dosha goes into the tissue and disease full on begins. Then you need herbs and or panchakarma, etc. to what is our therapeutic thinking? What we want to do is we want to draw ama and the doshas back from the tissues into circulation, and via circulation into the digestive tract, so we can vaman, throw it up, we can purgate it, varachan, one of the panchakarma remedies, or we can basti. But what it's doing is, if you look at the margas, or the vyadi margas, it goes, and they're just gatis and all this put together, it goes from your initial sites in your core of your body, your digestive tract, it circulates, and then it goes out to the tissues. That's a centrifugal movement, right? What we want to do is centripetal movement of the doshas and ama back from the deep tissues into the bloodstream, and then from the bloodstream into the digestive tract. Create that suction. Yeah? That's an advanced yet easy concept of panchakarma and Ayurvedic healing all in one little bit.
Interesting.
Okay, but that's the key. So when one gives the more advanced herbs that target the dhatus and so on, it's drawing that. It's doing more than that, but that's one of the things, is it's drawing those doshas back out circulation, and then from circulation back, and so on and so on. And then finally getting it out of the system through the excretory pathways.
Because I'm also wondering, because I find like with my healing, like I make progress, I get a little better, and then I get a little worse again. And then I get better and I get a little worse again. But the overall progress is I'm getting better, but then it's like it's constantly up and down. And I'm wondering if that's
It's not a bad thing. It's you got to do this slowly. Is if you do it all in one big wallop, you're gonna have horrible symptomology. Right? It's going to be too intense. You have to go at the right pace.
Uh-huh.
And if someone's really having intense symptomology to come out, you're going too fast.
Okay.
Next time.
And I had gotten an overview of those stages in another class, and she said that at that last stage, like in some cases, Ayurveda thinks that certain things are incurable. Is that like
sure? In next class, we're going to go over disease, and we start talking about prognosis, and we'll be answering that. But essentially, some things are incurable, some things aren't, and some things are. Let's hope to God we cure them. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Ayurveda doesn't say it can cure everything.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're very, very welcome. So thank you, everyone, and take care. Okay,
Thank you.
Really nice seeing you all.
Thank you.
And Brittany, do you have just a minute just to check in, or do you got?
I was gonna say you probably want to chat, but I only have like a minute.
Okay, yeah, me too. So we're on the same boat.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Okay.